Welcome back to Hoochos. Today on Hoochos,
how you can take your NFT, wick wedge, citrus rain gutter grow system, Floatbox and dragon fruit, as well as Dutch bucket hydroponic system, and turn them into aquaponics. Yeah,
yep.
Absolutely.
Easily done, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. So we're going to be discussing in this video how you might utilize all of these ideas within an aquaponics system, or even change from hydroponics to aquaponics.
With the bonus of you grow yourself a couple of fish, which is very hard to do in soil.
We've just spent a video on your channel
chatting
about how you'd adapt one of these rain gutter grow systems into an aquaponics system.
Yes.
And if you want to see that, jump over to Rob Bob's channel. But essentially,
all these growing systems here could easily be utilized in an aquaponic system, whether you're starting from scratch, I think, or transitioning over from hydroponics, if the aim is to actually grow some extra protein in your system by adding some fish into a fish tank to provide the nutrients for the plants.
Absolutely. And the way that you'd incorporate this, we won't go into too much detail because you can see that on Rob Bob's channel, but it would be a recirculating system.
It would be. Hydroponic nutrients, they tend to be organically inert for the most part, other than one or two brands. So it's all right just to sit in a trough in the sun. Ideally, you want the water temperature down. But with aquaponics, there's a lot of organics in that water. And organics in water and heat and no airflow basically makes an anaerobic environment, and you end up with a very smelly water trough, basically.
I'll bet. So NFT doesn't belong to hydroponics people. Aquaponics people have been doing it forever too.
Yeah, it's basically the only difference between hydroponics and aquaponics is your nutrient source predominantly is coming from the fish. There are some other elements that do need to be added from time to time. So we're basically using a nutrient-rich technique, and NFT, nutrient film technique, it just lends its hand so easily to the aquaponics, just flowing the water down in a thin film underneath the rails. And there's some people who adapt like the PVC pipe. They call it NFT, but we all know it's not. It's a deep water culture, but within a pipe. And hydroponic people use that method, as do aquaponics as well.
Absolutely, so, and it's really productive. And it's really good for greens.
If I wanted to just grow greens in our aquaponics without any fruiting plants, I think I could almost get away with just fish food, fish waste, a little bit of potassium and a little bit of magnesium and calcium, and we'd be flying along.
Absolutely. This is the Floatbox hydroponic system, and you love your grow bags, don't you?
I do. I used to actually sell the root pouches. I think they're a fantastic way to grow your plants, whether you're using soil. And I've built a very similar system to this just recently in the aquaponics.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was doing a little bit of a trial. I was doing potatoes in the clay ball media. I had a soil grow bag, and I had a coir grow bag, a coconut coir grow bag, and instead of rocks I had clay balls around the base. The main reason I use the clay, same reason you'd probably use the rocks, mosquitoes and algal growth in nutrient rich water. So this is basically a system like this, if you could recirculate the water through it, is already set up for aquaponics.
Absolutely. Thank you, Stephen. All right, so I want to pick your brain a little bit about Stephen.
No sex on camera.
So I want to talk to you a little bit about water management in your aquaponic system. Because obviously for me, it's gravity feed straight from a res. But for you, there's a whole lot of processes that need to be...
Yeah, with the fish, the primary concern with aquaponics is the fish health, because without the fish health, you've got no nutrients going through to the system. There's a actual second set of critters that do all the hard lifting, and that's oxidizing bacteria, nitrogen oxidizing bacteria. They're present all around us. They're in the atmosphere all the time. So what they do is they come and colonize what we call a biofilter. Most aquaponic systems, it would be a grow bed that is filled with media. The bacteria set up shop, colonize themselves on the media. As the ammonia rich water comes through, they turn that into nitrite and then on into nitrate, which is fish friendly. So when it recirculates back through to the fish tank, if this was a fish tank, they pretty much will, the water is safe for the fish, and the plants can then use that nitrate, take it up for their own growth processes.
Absolutely. And if you don't have all of those systems in place and the colonies of bacteria, they can build up?
Yeah, basically you're going to end up with an ammonia spike or a nitrite spike. Ammonia is very toxic to the fish. Nitrite is just as bad. What nitrite does is it basically blocks the ability for the blood in the fish to take up oxygen.
Wow.
So there are ways to remedy that. Very simple, very cheap as a safeguard. But yeah, if you're transitioning, say, from your NFT system straight over to an aquaponic system, you definitely need to add some form of biofiltration in there to do the heavy lifting and transfer the ammonia or oxidize the ammonia all the way through to nitrate.
Right.
Yeah.
And actually, just while we're on that subject of that NFT system, the grow bed and the reservoir that is underneath it, that actually was inspired by your chop and flip video on your channel. So thank you for that.
Not a problem, mate.
Yeah,
Not a problem.
actually, let's have a look at that. All right, so this is the chop and flip aquaponics system that I made in a video that was inspired by your video over on your channel, and that's actually a huge video. So if you're interested in doing something like this, head over. But what I'd like to pick your brain about is with the system this size, growing, you know, this many plants, do you think that this 200 litres of clay balls that's actually got wasabi growing in it at the moment, do you think that if it was set up as a flood and drain as I initially intended it, that would be enough biofiltration for this amount of plants?
Well, to begin with, there's a stocking ratio that is a bit of a general rule of thumb with aquaponics, and that is 25 litres or 6.6 gallons of grow media that is wet underneath the water level, so there's nutrient-rich water touching it. For every fish, you want to grow out to 500 grams or 1 pound.
Right.
So 200 litres, you're looking at around about 8 fish.
Okay, yeah.
You can probably have 8 fish that you want to grow out to a decent harvest size.
Okay.
So that would definitely be enough to run greens in your grow bed.
Yeah, yeah.
I think you may be pushing it with the amount of NFT that you've got on the grow.
So,
mainly because these sugar loaves behind me, I know how hungry they are for nutrients.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm actually thinking about it the wrong way, in the sense that I shouldn't be thinking about grow media to feed the plants. I should be thinking about grow media to process the waste from the fish.
Exactly.
And then the fish to feed the plants.
That's exactly right.
Right.
Yes,
Okay. That's cool. I like that. See,
Yes.
I didn't think about it like that. So by far one of my favourite systems in hydroculture, be it aquaponics or hydroponics, is the Dutch bucket system, and you're interested in Dutch buckets too.
I really am. I've seen people grow tomatoes. One of the problems we have where we live is fruit flies are an issue, so I love Hoocho's setup. I really want to have a crack at growing tomatoes and cucumbers in this system, mainly because they're just so versatile. Like Hoocho's just going straight up here. I've seen folks who will actually grow them up, loop them down, the looping technique, and they end up with a massive row of tomatoes with the plants down one end and the actual fruiting bodies or ends up the other end. They're just so very versatile. The only issue I've really had with them so far is just the height, trying to get them to grow at a point where I can recirculate the water without including separate pumps, because I prefer to have one pump in my system to run all the water flows. So,
absolutely.
yeah.
And we've talked about how you're looking into, you know, expanding
Yes.
onto another property
Yes.
and setting up from scratch again.
Yes.
And I love
Looking forward to it.
all these ideas,
Yeah.
you know, they can all be implemented and implemented before you set it all up. So
Yes.
you can have your sump down low and everything running back into it.
Yeah,
You know?
it's one thing I'd definitely, if you are looking at converting over to aquaponics, put a lot of thought into it first, do a lot of research, because there's a lot of ways to make your life a lot easier. I noticed that you've got pretty much all gravity fed wherever you can,
Yep.
and a lot of one pump systems.
Yep.
And if you can do that with your aquaponics as well, you're laughing.
Absolutely. So if you do want any extra information on aquaponics, Rob's got an online interactive guide.
Yeah, it's an aquaponics beginner's guide.
Yep.
It's through the Retrieve online website. It's basically a way for you to tap a button on your phone, speak into it, say something like grow beds, and a whole list of items will come up from the guide that talk about grow beds. You can tap on the transcript, fully transcribed, and it will take you to that section of the video, so you can get the visual as well as just read along if you don't really want to listen to my hairy mug.
And multiple languages too.
Yes, multiple language. We're Spanish, Portuguese, Hindi, and Chinese.
Absolutely.
So not only just transcribed, it's also got people translating for me.
How cool.
And yeah, so you can learn in those languages as well if they're your first language.
Yeah,
So.
and that's a really good reference guide, because I know it could be arduous, just like looking for the video you want and then going, you know, 15 minutes in for that one piece of information. It's just quick reference.
It's all catalogued there. You just,
Search it up.
Search it up, type it in, talk into your phone, and it just appears.
So good. And that'll be linked in the description of this video. It's also in the description of every one of
my videos.
Yeah,
all the recent ones, yes.
Oh. Yeah. All right, well, thank you for joining us today on Hoochos. Thank you for joining us today on Hoochos.
Not a problem, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah,
I've really enjoyed the visit.
And I'm looking forward to coming down and seeing your place.
Most definitely.
Absolutely.
Most definitely.
All right, thanks for joining us, and I'll see you next time.
Cheers, folks.
So this is the Thank you, Stephen.
Main reason they're there, same for you probably.
Go again on that. And the colonies.
Way to grow your plants, whether you're using soil, is already set up for aquaponics.
Absolutely. Thank you, Stephen.